to show you how to construct a binomial distribution in Excel. Now, we have the binomial distribution in our books, but it is limited. For instance, it only goes up to an n of 20, and our p's are all rounded to one decimal place. It also has places where it does not have the probability listed because it is so small, and they want to keep everything rounded to 3 decimal places. So if it's 0 for those 3 decimal places, then it does not list a probability. So we're going to construct a distribution with a certain n and a certain p, and we're going to have all possible x's and the probability of those x's. And Excel has the binomial distribution built in, the binomial formula, so we can use that to construct this distribution. First thing I do is I tell you to choose an n between 25 and 100, which is off our table. We do not have those values, so we're constructing something new that you do not have. I'm going to do n equals 20 though for the sake of doing something that you will not do. And then I tell you to pick a p between 0.1 and 0.9. I say pick something that is not going to be in your table as well. It's like a 0.35, something that's not one decimal place. But if you want to, that's fine. And then we're going to have our x's and all of our probabilities of those x's. Remember, that's what a probability distribution is, all the possible outcomes and the probabilities of those outcomes. So we're going to have the possibility of 0 successes, the probability of that, 1 success, the probability of that, and so on. So in x, it can take on values from 0 to n, and these are counting numbers. You can't have decimals or fractions here because these are discrete random variables. So start with 0, and we're going to go up by 1. Now, I don't want to type all of these in. I'm lazy, and I don't want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 20. And you, of course, will be doing something bigger, so you don't want to type all of those numbers in. Excel will continue the pattern that you've established. So if you'll go, if you'll type in 0 and 1, and then click and drag and highlight 0 and 1, and then move your cursor until it is in the bottom right hand corner over this little box, and it turns into this solid black plus sign. And then if you will click and hold and drag your mouse down, you can see that your pattern is continuing. You just have to establish a pattern, and then you're going to stop at your end. So my end is 20. I'm going to stop at 20. I could keep on going if I wanted to. Okay. So that'll make it easier when you go to do that. Of course, you could type it all in, but this is just, in my opinion, quicker. And then we want the probability of each of these x's for our p of x. So this is our outcome, and then the probability of that outcome. So we'll use the binomial formula that's built into Excel. We could do this on paper using that binomial formula. For Excel, you type in binom dist, B-I-N-O-M, D-I-S-T, and then parentheses, and it tells you what it wants you to type in. The first thing it asks for is the number underscore s, which is the number of successes, and that is our x, that's our number of successes. So I'm going to click on that cell, that way I can continue my pattern all the way down. I won't have to type this each time, so that's going to save you some time as well. So click on your cell that you're trying to take the number of successes, or x. And then they ask us for the number of trials, which is our n. So I'm going to click on my n. Now, I don't want, when I click and drag, I don't want this box to move down. I want it to stay this box. When I click and drag, I do want this one to then go to this and to this, but I don't want this to move. To do that, you put dollar signs before the letter and after the letter in the cell name, and that fixes it so that it won't move left to right or up to down. Okay. And then they ask for the probability of a success, which is our p. So I'm going to click on my p, but once again I want that cell to remain fixed, so I'm going to put dollar signs around the letter. It's going to it so that it will not move up or down or left or right as I click and drag. And then they ask, is the distribution cumulative? So if we wanted to, for instance, have in our next cell, we wanted the probability of less than 1 or less trials, 2 or less trials, that would be a cumulative distribution. That's not what we want here. We want the probability of exactly 1, exactly 2, exactly 3 as we go down, not 3 or less, 2 or less, or so on. So we do not want cumulative, so you type false, which tells Excel that you are not wanting cumulative for that. Okay, hit enter, and it computes the probability of that x. Now your table would not show this probability because it is, it would take 4 decimal places to display something other than 0. So this is useful in that we could use Excel to find these probabilities without having to use the binomial formula on paper. I want to continue this all the way down. I've typed it in a way that I can click and drag, just like I did the 0 and 1. And just go to the bottom right-hand corner until my cursor turns into a black plus sign. Click, hold, and drag all the way down. And there you go. Now you have your probability distribution for n equals 20 and p equals 0.35. And you can look as I highlight to set this next cell that my number of successes has moved down to A6, but my N and my P have remained the same because those dollar signs are the same thing here. It's moved down to 2, but those have remained the same. Okay. I do want to draw a graph of this, which Excel will do. So I'm going to highlight my probabilities. That's what I'm going to be graphing on my bars. I want my bars to be the height of the probability, so that's what I'm going to highlight, is the height of, highlight the height of your bars is what you're going to do. I'm going to insert a column graph. This is the first one. Okay, and there is the graph of this binomial distribution. I'm going to delete this. There's one little problem, and that is that my x-axis starts with 1, and we want it to start with 0. So it always is defaulted to do start at 1, but we, in this case, we want to start at 0. So I'm going to select data. So click on your axis, right click, and select data. And then you're wanting to select your horizontal axis label, so click edit here. And then highlight your axis. Okay. And now it's starting at 0, and it's matching. The probability of 0 is the 0.000181, and that would be the height of this bar. And of course, some of these probabilities are so small that the bars look like they're not there. But if you were to zoom this in, if you make it really large, you'll start seeing that those bars do exist there. So do know that they're there. They're just so small that they're not showing up, and that's fine. You get the shape of the distribution, which is what's important here. This distribution is skewed to the right. We always say our skew with our tail, so our longer tail is to the right, so we would say this is skewed right. We do need to label this. So remember to do that, you click on Layout and Axis Titles, and we'll do our horizontal axis title, which is our X. We'll do our vertical axis title, which is our helix. And then the title of the graph is our binomial distribution with an N of 20 and a P of 0.35. Okay. And of course you could change this graph with your format if you would like. And that is your binomial distribution.